Assalamu alaikum, a very good evening and welcome to iON Business. Today we will be discussing a job support scheme and the 10 p.m. curfew for the hospitality industry. I have two guests with me today. I have Mr. Nazir Ahmed, who is a barrister, who is a writer, and I have on my following right, I have Wakan Hassan, who is a business advisor and an accountant. Very good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to the program.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you very much. As you know, as a businessman yourselves, linked to businesses, we are going through a very tough time at the moment. Okay, it is not going away very soon.
No.
So in terms of what business are facing, what public are facing, and so on, with the job support scheme, okay, what I'd like to pick up on that is the scheme, is it open to the general business in whole, or is there a particular sector that will be passed out? Could you clarify on?
It's thank you for asking these questions. This new job support scheme it's mainly for the it's called viable jobs. So the jobs that they need it basically. So say for example, first of all you got to look at the requirements. You need to be working at least 33% of the usual hours. So say for example, if you are working, if you're doing 24 hours a week, say for example, you need to be working at least 8 hours a week in order to qualify for that. If there is a business, they are closed at the moment, they don't have any employees or they don't have any business going on, it's not for them. It's only for the viable jobs, means they need some
ongoing businesses.
But the turnover probably has gone down due to the like COVID-19, but they're still open. They wish to continue. So that's a support from the government.
I mean, is it lacking on taking people away? You know, like you said, viable. Okay, so how do you distinguish viable and business? I mean, the people obviously are going to be in need. We're going to have a lot of mass unemployment. What is your sort of thing on viable? You know, I mean, obviously the government has thought through what they're saying, but there will be a lot of people who will be losing their jobs, a lot of companies who will be closing, and in terms of viable.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as you said at the beginning, that we are not going to get away from this coronavirus so easily within a short time. I mean, even 9-10 months ago, nobody has ever contemplated such scenario. And now it is clear to us that, I mean, it is not going to go away from us very
soon. No.
Government was not prepared at the beginning how to deal with pandemic. Although they have done or taken quite a good initiative for the business. So the scheme you mentioned about will replace the furlough scheme. And as accountants have said, I mean, this is to help businesses, viable businesses, to keep it running. I mean, mostly, I mean, small businesses and medium-sized businesses, those who are or have been struggling to survive. I mean, these initiatives from the government as an initiative to help those businesses to keep going.
That's right. We have a caller online, so I'll stop you there and we'll take that call. A very good evening, caller. How are you?
Hello. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, aski kono immigration or alochona kora jaibo na business.
We're talking about job support scheme and the 10 p.m. curfew for licensed restaurants. Inshallah, the Barrister Shab will be talking about immigration, another program.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Every Tuesday we have an immigration barrister who's doing immigration question and answers. Please do call in and speak to our resident barrister there. Thank you. Nazir Bhai, going back to what you were finishing off, really in terms of the plan of the next 6 months,
yeah, starting from 1st of November. And I think this is called winter economy plan. So it will go for 6 months. And again, I mean, time will say whether it has been or it will be a successful initiative for the government. We have seen previous supports, for example, furlough and bounce back loans, this and that. But always the government has not been able to devise a plan, well thought out plan, how to effectively support those businesses. But let's see how it goes.
I mean, so far what the government has done with the furlough scheme is they've done to their very best, which was not really prepared for it. But going back to what was not prepared in the beginning of March when the first lockdown happened, we are likely to go on a second lockdown. Obviously, hopefully no. I mean, are they better prepared now? Do you think the government is prepared now? Is it prepared for the businesses?
Still, I don't feel the government is well prepared. I mean, look at or compare with Germany, how they have dealt with it. We are, far behind of Germany.
Germany our economy, France, the furlough continues till 2021.
Exactly. Even that toll, Germany, how they were able to keep so minimum, we couldn't. Our economy is almost near to Germany. So it is very ironic. Now we are on the verge of second lockdown, as you said. Some parts of the countries have been already under lockdown. So London might be, I don't know how the way infection rate has been going up. But testing methods, the availability of testing kits, the government has not been able to manage properly so far. So it's very ironic. We are living in a first world country, but the government has not been so far managed well.
On the ball, it hasn't been really. Could have been more smoother.
Yeah, exactly. When Germany was able to test 70,000 per day, we were not able to test 10,000.
Okay.
So that's the scenario at the beginning of the pandemic. Even economic initiative, the initiatives government has taken, and there has been a lot of criticism. For example, Eat Out scheme. How far the government were successful in putting the scheme? Especially when people makes allegation that this has spread infection so rapidly, especially in London.
Wakan Bhai, you obviously deal with a lot of our hospitality business people.
Even tourism.
Yeah. Wakan Bhai, I'll come back to you. We've got a caller online. Very good evening, caller.
Hello, very good evening, brother. Assalamu alaikum, bhaiya.
Assalamu alaikum, bala soin.
জি বালা আছি আমি অতটুকু বলতাম চাই আপনার প্রোগ্রাম যে আয়ন বিজনেস আমাদের লুজ হবে করোনা ভাইরাস হওয়ার কারণে আমরা ব্যক্তিগত পয়সা প্রফিট থেকে আমরা এটা এই বাস্তব পারতাম না আমরা লুজ করবো অনেক পয়সা কিন্তু লুজ করার মাধ্যমে দেখো আমরা ব্রেক্সিটও হইছে প্রথমে আমরা গ্রেট ব্রিটেন দেশটার সম্পর্কে জানতে হবে আমাদের পয়সা যাক আমরা দুনিয়া অস্তিত্ব হইব কিন্তু এর জন্য আমি বলতেছি দেশের একটা ক্যাবিনেট আছে না ওই ক্যাবিনেটে একটা সুখবর আছে আমাদের পৃথিবীর জন্য সারাটা পৃথিবীর জন্য যেটা এখন কেউ বলতে চায় না মুখ দিয়ে সারাটা পৃথিবী নিজ নিজ দায়িত্বে বড় হইতে চাইতেছে ওদেরকে চলতে দিন আগামীতে আমাদের এমন একটা গ্রেট ব্রিটেনের সুখবর আছে তো এর জন্য আমি বলছি আমাদের বাঙালি ভাইদের আমরা যেন তাড়াহুড়া না করি কোনো জিনিসে পয়সার জন্য আমাদের ব্যক্তিগতভাবে আমরা রেস্টুরেন্টে অনেক পয়সা করে লুজ হবে আর আমাদের প্রথম দিকে লুকাস্টার করতে হবে আমাদের ওই বাঙালি ভাই বোনদেরকে যারা ইলিগেল আছেন এই গ্রেট ব্রিটেনে আমি উদাহরণ দিয়ে বলতাম চাই 1952 সালে যারা জেলে ছিলেন
Sorry, we've lost the caller. Thank you very much for your fabulous call. I think what the caller was trying to say is try and hold on to your money. Wakan Bhai, going back to what we were saying about, do you think in terms of the furlough scheme, from the furlough scheme to the jobs support, is that a carry-on automatically, or is it what do?
Okay, first of all, you need to understand the difference between these two. So, furlough scheme was it's got nothing to do with this new job support scheme. So, in order to qualify for this scheme, you don't need to be on the furlough scheme. So, any new employer can even register for this scheme. But
so just to be clear that even if they was not on the furlough scheme, they are able to go on to this job support scheme.
Yes, they can, and But the thing is, they need to have, say for example, if they even register for this thing, in order to qualify any employee, they need to be on the payroll, and RTA needs to be submitted before 23rd of September. So that's literally the announcement day. So anyone joining on the payroll after that day or submitting RTI for that employee would not be eligible for this job support scheme.
So suppose someone started on the 24th
of September.
There will be people who have started on the 24th of September.
Or say even 1st of September. Even 1st of September, but their RTI was not submitted before 23rd of September. So they will be left out basically under this new rule.
So in terms of...
Can I just clarify this thing, how it's going to work out basically in terms of the amount that they can get. First of all, they need to be working at least 33 hours of their usual hours. So if their normal hours is 24 hours a week, they need to be working at least 8 hours a week in order to qualify for that. The remaining hours will be reimbursed. 1/3 will be reimbursed by the government, 1/3 will be reimbursed by the employer, and they will not be paid for the remaining 1/3. That's how it's going to be divided. In terms of the payment, government support will be kept at only £697.92. So the maximum, even if it's 1/3, the maximum they can contribute is £697.92. There's no, like, you don't have to be working 33% of the hours. You can do more than that if you want. So any hours that you're not doing, that's going to be proportionately worked out, and the government will reimburse to the employer. And it's going to be paid monthly in arrears. Employer can make the claim after the end of the month, on the following month, and then government will pay this money to the employer.
Let's get Nazir Bhai in here. What Nazir Bhai, obviously Wakan Bhai has a little bit more into figure side. What personal view, what do you think, is that something, obviously if we go into the furlough, it was first paid 80% of the salary, then 70%, then 60%, and then it's going to come to, do you think this is really fair on people who will have to pay mortgages and so on?
Well, my view is the government cannot continue supporting under furlough scheme for indefinite period. There has to be an end. Probably the government is trying to come out of that scheme slowly. I mean, if they come out of furlough scheme rapidly or suddenly, then probably a lot of businesses will be closed.
So a lot of unemployment will happen.
Exactly. So a lot of people will be unemployed. So their mechanism is to come out slowly. That's why furlough scheme, I mean, it was 80% from the government support. Now it is 1/3. And again, cap is £697.92, whereas in furlough scheme, the cap was 2,500. So that shows the government, and again, the government has limitation. They cannot bring all the money into this area. I mean, they have to concentrate on other areas as well. And also, the British public would have to pay those. I mean, the government is paying now.
In due time.
Exactly. I mean, for example, post-Brexit era, post-coronavirus era, probably government would have to introduce a new tax regime, for example, to get those money. So the government has limitation, and within that limitation, government has been trying to support.
But if we look at our neighbours, France, Germany, where in the first couple of months of the lockdowns and the virus, COVID-19, they said we'll do it till 2021, where our government has said, okay, this is up to then, and that is up to then. Should you think?
Exactly. I mean, government, as I said, you rightly said, as I said earlier, the government has not managed properly and fully. I mean, right from the beginning of the coronavirus. I mean, government was not prepared. Suddenly it came to the government. Government tried to do something. So this is where we are now. So I don't think we cannot compare the government's initiative with that of Germany or even France.
You think they could have done a little bit more?
They could have done.
They could have done a little bit more, sort of like, a little bit more better, a little bit more.
Of course, they could have. I mean, if the government was fully prepared in February, they could have managed better way the coronavirus. I mean, they didn't give importance at all. When University of London, Imperial College London, published their findings that if the government go ahead the way they are doing, then 250,000 people would die. Then government was, nervous, and then the state where they went for
and so far
lockdown.
we have what 49,000 that sort of figure so far, isn't it?
Even their own scientists said if the government could lock down 2 weeks earlier than they did, they could have avoided, I mean,
a lot of
people. Death.
Which only time will tell that if that work. I mean, obviously, as we speak and we see, and obviously we'll have some more finding where there are a lot of
exactly, and this is the second wave, and a lot of people said, a lot of scientists said, second wave would hurt even more than the first initial coronavirus thingy. So let's see how government tackle this problem.
Wakan bhai, you know, obviously you work with the Indian restaurant industry or small businesses within our community, within the Bangladeshi community. Okay, this 10 o'clock curfew, how do you think it will sort of like affect us in terms of, is it just for the licensed restaurant? Is it just for the takeaway? What's your understanding of that?
As far as I haven't really done too much research on this in terms of curfews. As far as I know, the business have to shut by 10 o'clock. It's definitely started affecting businesses because there are areas where the restaurants are busy. They are doing business still probably 11 or 12 o'clock. So if they have to shut the business, meaning they have to prepare before that. They have to start preparing about closing their door. So it's definitely affecting the businesses. The initiatives taken by the Chancellor, which are effective from 1st of November, it's not that helpful in terms of this job support scheme is nowhere near the job retention scheme, which is furlough. Because if you look at it, it's only about, you're looking only 22% of the usual pay. Whereas compared to you started off with 80%, then 70%, now 60% for October. So this curfew and all these measures, some of the measures taken by Rishi Sunak, some of them are good, like in terms of job retention scheme, it was good, but the handling of bounce back loan wasn't good at all. The way it's been handled, you could just have a company, no trading, and you could be given 50,000 for without any checks basically, despite knowing the fact that you wouldn't get those money back basically. So they could have handled that in a different way.
So there should have been more checks and more thorough
in terms of
before lending out this public money.
Public money.
It is guaranteed by the government.
Eventually, we will have to pay this money. The public will pay this money back. So that means we'll have to burden this £50,000. Whoever is taking £100,000, whatever, we will have to contribute to this £50,000. The taxpayers, the British public.
Nazir bhai, do you think the eat out, the help out, in terms of we don't have evidence yet, has that really increased a little bit further to the viruses for the next phase of or another lockdown, as we are seeing in a lot of cities and towns in North? Do you think this has
well, I do not have hard fast evidence, but people are saying, I mean, eat out, help out scheme to a great extent, I mean, help spread virus from different community groups. I mean, people were relaxed really. I mean, meeting together, eating. Because
of the government giving this out to the public and saying the public has thought, okay, forget, put the COVID-19 behind you.
And then just go. Well, I don't agree with that policy at all. And the way government tried to help. I mean, it could have been done other way round. But the way they try to help the businesses by giving 50% discount, and a lot of people jumped into the
there were queues.
Exactly, and there's been fight as well. I mean, in some places to go.
Where the understanding of the scheme, where the customers probably for 50% of the bill, but it's capped to £10 per person.
Exactly. So the idea, well, I don't agree with the idea, and to a great extent, I believe personally that has helped spreading viruses to a great extent. And in relation to curfew, what the accountant has said, first of all, I would like to say whatever law is made, we must obey the law.
Of course.
So this is what we have to do. Having said that, we have right to criticize the law. And on the one hand, government is trying to put curfew to limit this and that. Again, the school is open. People can gather for fox hunting. There's not so much a relax of 6 people, I mean, in a mosque or church or even a wedding. Or even a funeral prayer. 6 people are not limited. So on the one hand, you say you can't meet 6 people together. And there are some other occasions where people are mixing, and especially from school. Although children's casualty rate is very, very low, but they can easily spread the virus to their parents and grandparents.
Since the school has opened up, the correct numbers, I'm not 100%, but it's about 200 to 300 schools that are closed in the first week and second week, where we have a couple of the university up in Scotland, Edinburgh,
Manchester,
Glasgow, where the students are in 2 weeks quarantine.
Exactly. So there are conflicting approaches from the government, and in other words, you can say like, go, don't go, do, don't do. So those sort of conflicting approach, you cannot expect to have a good outcome.
Better result.
So really, what in terms of whether it is business, whether it's the education, I mean, yes, you do say the number of children casualties are very low, but they are taking it home, they are taking it to their extended family and friends.
And our community, especially British Bangladeshi community, will suffer the most, because it is our custom to live in a united family, I mean extended families, where grandparents, parents are living together. So these children, they may not be a victim of casualties, for example, death rate is very, very low, but they can easily spread to their parents and grandparents.
I mean, I think there have been a small study done in regards to the Asian and Black minority, that we are the biggest risk in.
Exactly, we have already been, yeah, exactly.
Especially in the Bangladeshi community. So really, we like yourself, businessmen like yourself, who are working within the community, really need to encourage our fellow colleagues, our fellow businessmen and families to really take that, sanitize your hand.
Exactly. And I again and again I try to say, look, we must not take this coronavirus lightly. We should not mix even 2, 3, 4 people unless we have to. And maximum 6 people. Even below 6, we should not be meeting 4, 3 people unless we have to. This is a very, very serious. You will find book launching program, this program, that meeting, that if you are able to live on. If you die, everything will go off. So please take this coronavirus seriously.
The general public, in terms of how strict, obviously we must follow any law that comes into force. But do you think will be followed strictly by the general public, where you have business curfew for 10 o'clock and where you have no more than 6 people? Do you think that will carry on strictly?
Well, it should be. I mean, as I said earlier, once law is made, as a good citizen of the country, we must obey the law.
Everybody must?
Obey the law, exactly. However, we are living in a democratic country. We are not living in a police state. So we have every right to criticize the government policy.
But again, not to break the law.
Not breaking the law. I mean, we have democratic right to. I mean, we can exercise this right different way. But once the law is made by the government or by the parliament, we must obey it. So if we criticize, if we obey the law, and if we criticize, then government will be compelled to change the law. And they have been changing laws from now and then. So we must obey the law. And government is trying from their part to contain this virus. But we, as a citizen of the country, we must do from our part.
We must carry on helping.
And everyone, lawyers, accountant, broadcaster, journalist, everyone has a responsibility.
A role to play.
Exactly.
Everybody has a role to play.
So we should collectively work together.
Gentlemen, we're going to go on a quick commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen at home, I hope you have enjoyed the first part of the program. Don't go away. We'll come back in a couple of minutes after a short commercial break. If you have an ice cream manufacturer or ice cream supplier who supply to a hotel, a restaurant, what terms of what would they pay? What rate of?
They will pay their usual rates. It's just only for this those some specialist sector, 4 or 5 of them. So ice cream seller was applying. It's like a retailer or probably a grocery shop. They're supplying chicken or meat, whatever, to the restaurants. They don't qualify for this scheme. They got their own scheme. Usual scheme could be retail or whatever their own. But this VAT reduction is only applicable for those
hospitality,
sectors, yeah.
the restaurant and hotel industry.
The good thing would be, obviously, if they want, they need to talk to their accountant, because there is a, first of all, obviously, they will pay reduced rate, which is 5% instead of 20%. If it's flat rate, obviously, they will pay much lower. It's again 4.5% instead of 12.5%. If it's a restaurant or takeaway. There is also possibility of, like, reclaiming VAT from HMRC rather than just paying it, because you could be paying VAT on your purchases or probably rent. So if they I would like to make this awareness. Probably you need to talk to if you're a businessman, you need to talk to your accountant. They could probably look into your VAT affair, and they could potentially work out reclaim rather than just paying. Also, I would like to touch upon another thing. If you could not pay VAT due to this COVID-19 for between 20th of March till 30th of June, now the time has been extended to pay your VAT bill
for the 11 months.
For the 11 months, yeah. That's till so you go up until 31st of March 2021 to pay the VAT bill.
Does it right? To clarify, if, for example, a restaurant had customers in there before 10 o'clock, say 9 o'clock, and they were there till 10:30. How does the law work in that? How are they penalized? Are they going to be sort of?
Yeah, with this restriction, some severe penalty has been introduced. I mean, for example, individually, it was a £100 fine penalty. It has been doubled, £200. And for each repeated offense, it will be double, up to 3,200. And in extreme and rare cases, police can straight away arrest. And on businesses, I mean, if they fail to comply with those restrictions, the businesses can be fined up to £10,000. So that is very draconian measures. And as you said, businesses should comply the law. Even it appears to be unfair, but still they have to comply it. So I mean, for example, if a person has a symptom of coronavirus and he must isolate himself, and if he doesn't, then he can face the penalty of up to £1,000.
So the people who will be dining in a restaurant, do they have to get everybody out by 10 o'clock? Does that mean that they can carry on because they're already inside the premises? Do they carry on staying, or do they have to be shut shop by that time?
I don't think we should be. I mean, businesses should play with the loophole. 10 o'clock is shut. So there should not be any people inside the business.
So if a customer called up and said, "Look, I would like a table at 9:30. And they come with half an hour, unless it's fast food. If you go to sort of like a casual restaurant, half an hour is not enough time. Should you let them? Should you not let them? To be on the safe side, what do you?
Well, the judgment will be used by the operators. I mean, the businessmen. I mean, of course, the customers are well aware of the law, and businessmen should be well aware of the law. So if they can serve and they can take the services by 10 o'clock, that's fine. Otherwise, they should be told of this.
So they should actually leave the premises at 10 o'clock.
And the business should be shut at 10
legal
o'clock.
requirement.
Exactly.
Right. Wakan Bhai, I mean, in terms of where the government has said take an apprentice on, take it to 16 years old on, take it under 25 years old, how does a restaurateur apply for these sort of apprentice? How do they really, in terms of taking one on or taking two on, what do you suggest? How is it done?
The restaurants can benefit from this scheme, but then again they have to comply with all the rules and regulations of hiring someone, because they have to bear in mind these apprentices, they are obviously between 21 to 24 age, so you have to be considerate that this could probably be their first job, so you have to comply with all the rules and regulations. In terms of the apprenticeship, you have to pay the correct pay. It's much reduced amount rather than the usual rate per hour. The restaurants can definitely benefit from them. It's no, probably based on my experience, I haven't really seen restaurants taking on like apprentices, especially within the restaurant.
Should we encourage them?
We should encourage them, because first of all, this will create the employability for these apprentices. Plus you can benefit from their, plus government will reimburse, they will pay a grant worth up to £1,500. So our restaurants, we need to start thinking about different approach in terms of staff management, because we are still stuck with the traditional ideas of hiring certain number of staff and their salary. So if we train them, and if we manage to train apprentices, it will definitely bring value to the businesses.
And it will bring out the next generation of...
For the next generations, yeah. Because another problem is there has been a lot of talks about, I don't want to touch upon that, problems with the Indian restaurants and why is it dying and things like that. Obviously, our elders, they know better than us. All I can say is that can still be turned around. As long as you put into new ideas into and if you adapt new ideas like apprenticeship or other things. Think about other businesses. They are doing well.
So how is the restaurateur? Where does it start from? Where does it?
They can contact with the local. We often get contacted by New Home College to take on apprentices. They can contact with the job center or local college. They can advertise. It's easy to get lots of applicants all the time. So they can easily get apprentices from those sources, job center or local colleges.
Nazar, how important is it for us as small businesses, whether it's restaurant, grocery, a law firm, to get these apprentices on board, get them to do?
It is very important. I mean, we will get indirect benefit. A lot of people don't understand indirect benefit. I mean, if you prepare someone, and that will be an asset for the business community. And on top of this, you will get grants from the
government. You will benefit financially.
Exactly. Financially, you will be benefited. And if you prepare someone, and if you prepare some people, they will be able to work for the business. And indirectly, you will be benefited. And a lot of people, a lot of us, we don't see indirect benefit the way we see direct benefit.
So we should really encourage them to come in.
Exactly.
Gentlemen, we are going to go on a small commercial break. Viewers at home, please don't go away. Stay with us and we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
আলাইকুম ওয়া রাহমাতুল্লাহি ওয়া বারাকাতুহু। নাজাত ইসলামী মার্কাজ, এখানে বাচ্চারা হাফিজি পড়তেছে, বিশেষ করে এই মাদ্রাসায় অন্ধ বাচ্চারা লেখাপড়া করে। আলহামদুলিল্লাহ, আপনাদের দান, আপনাদের আন্তরিকতায় এই মাদ্রাসায় ছেলেরা লেখাপড়া করে। যত ভাই বোনরা নাজাত ইসলামী মার্কাজে দান করেন, সকলকে আমি অনুরোধ করব আপনাদের লিল্লার গরু এবং খাসি এবং যে কোনো সময় যদি আপনারা চাউল দান করেন, তাহলে এই মাদ্রাসার ছেলেরা আপনাদের এই দানে উপকৃত হবে। এখানে যারা আছে সবাই অন্ধ, কেউ চোখে দেখে না। আজকে যারা লাঞ্চ খাইতেছে, মাশাআল্লাহ, কিছু দেখো না, সে দেখে, কিছু দেখো, সে কিছুই দেখে না। দেখুন তারা লাঞ্চ করতেছে আজকে। আমি সকল ভাই বোনদেরকে বলবো, আপনাদের লিল্লাহ সাদাকা খয়রাত নাজাত ইসলামী মার্কাজে আপনারা দান করুন, আল্লাহ আপনাদেরকে জাযা দান করবেন।
Warning, remember, never use a mobile handset when driving. It's dangerous and you could be fined. If you're involved in an accident, call Automec on 0208 983 2088.
evening and welcome back to iON Business. We have a new guest who has just joined us. We still have Nazir Ahmed, barrister, writer. We still have Wakan Hassan, an accountant, a business advisor, and now we've joined by Badrul Haq of Turkish Restaurant. So welcome to the program. Badrul Bhai, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you've had a safe journey getting here. Badrul Bhai, I was speaking to Nazir Bhai and Wakan Hassan earlier on with different business effect that COVID-19 has put us through in terms of. What I want to know from you, I mean, how are you managing? You have a huge restaurant. You have a huge restaurant where they help out and eat out. I mean, we were talking about, has that really pushed people to, the infection rate going up? Obviously, regardless of whether it's a small or a big operation, you have to do and take that. And how did you manage in terms of the number of people that you serve? How difficult was it?
I mean, at the beginning, when the scheme came out, we thought it is a really a fantastic, opportunity for us. It is a really good. It's going to help us go through. The reason is, obviously, we have small businesses. And through this COVID, we suffered a lot. And since this scheme introduced, we realized business was really increased. And at the last moment, I think we were struggling. We were struggling to cope with it.
Cope with the demand
of people who are coming through the door every single day. I mean, honestly, I mean, the last week was Monday was the last day. I think we had probably about 1,500 customers came through the door. We was really struggling. But then again, obviously, now we can see the infection rate was going up.
So
since then,
1,500 people to come through the door in one day is a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
How did you manage the safety of customers, guests, and your staff in whole? I mean,
we the restaurant we have that's about 150 covers, 140 covers. So from 11:30 till 12 o'clock, we are serving like 100 customers an hour. We have 140 covers, but we had to keep some distance.
So you've actually maintained the distance.
We had to maintain the distance, table to tables. Yes, and we had about 20 odd people was working that day. So yes, it was a really
So you put your customers' health and safety as a priority.
Of course we did. Yes,
and the staff as well.
Of course we did. Yes.
Do you think it was too short of a period? Should they have carried on for another little bit longer? Do you think that would have helped?
It would have been really helped. I mean, the last day, I think I must have refused about 1,000 people over the phone.
So that 1,000 people really only came out because of the scheme?
Because of the scheme, I believe. I mean, even though if you do this scheme by yourself, I mean, people will not come through.
So it's not effective as if you were to carry on doing it yourself, but it was affected by when the government announced this.
When the government announced the scheme, obviously it was in social media, it was in television, it was in everywhere. So people took the advantage of it, and everybody knew about it. But when you do it yourself, obviously, how many people you can reach to let them know that you are doing this? Yes. It's a government scheme, obviously, it's a nationwide, so everybody knew about it.
Absolutely. Did you, I mean, with the closures, with the 10 p.m. Curfew that's in force, how has it affected business like yourselves, and how would it affect smaller businesses just having probably a 30-seater restaurant where they have half the seating capacity, and yes. Now they've lost 2 hours or 3 hours from their opening time, because a lot of the restaurant, especially within our community, the Indian restaurant industry doesn't open till 6:30. And they're open to say 12 midnight or half past midnight. Now they've lost 2 hours, 3 hours. Do you think that is viable? Would they be viable? Or?
In Indian restaurant, obviously, as you all know, the business is only a period of 2 hours, between 7 till 9. we do the business, and then after 9 o'clock, whatever customer we get, that's kind of a bonus. But now it's a time we have to maintain. By 9:30, we cannot take anyone in after 9:30.
So
or
you must,
maybe 9 o'clock.
Nazir Bhai was saying you must have everybody vacating the business premises by 10 o'clock.
By 10
At
o'clock.
10 o'clock, no 1 minute pass and no 2 minute pass. So they have to vacate the premises.
That's right,
So if
yeah.
you took on somebody, a group of 6 people, they must finish ordering, eating and leaving the premises by 10 o'clock.
By 10 o'clock. So the business closing time should be 9 o'clock, not 10 o'clock actually.
So Nazir Bhai, we have a caller online. Let's go to the caller. Caller, very good evening to you.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম
Assalamu alaikum.
আমি এটা বলতাম যে তার কি যে ফুডটা খুবই ভালো হয়েছে আমি যা খাইতাম আমার ফ্যামিলি লইয়া আমি লুটনটাকে আইলেও আমি ওনারা খাইছি তারা খাইতাম আর ফুড এন্ড তারা দিয়ে এই লকডাউনের সময় তারা দিয়ে খুবই সার্ভিসিং করছে তাহলে অনেক ধন্যবাদ আমার তরফ থেকে জানাইলাম আমার ফ্যামিলির তরফ থেকে
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your lovely call. So you have a follower from
Yes.
very long away from, which appreciates your restaurant and your food. Going back to sort of what we were speaking in terms of the scheme and the time.
The Indian restaurant only has 3 hours time. If you look at it, that's what it is, from 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock. The government say it's a 10 o'clock time, but you cannot take anybody after 9 o'clock because
there's not enough time to.
That's not enough time. Definitely, it's not.
So it will hamper little businesses, little restaurants, little cafes who are open for that small period of time, and the capacity that they've shrunk. It's not going to work in their benefit.
No, it will not.
So hopefully for a bigger premises, bigger restaurant, 150-seater restaurant like yourselves, they have better chance of
surviving, yes.
In terms of the customers and the client that they can take in any one night, where you only have 2 hours window, 3 hours window.
That's right. Yes. A bigger restaurant, obviously, you have a bigger expenses as well. You have to look at that way.
Bigger responsibilities.
Responsibility. You got more staff to, you have more staff on board. You got more business. Yes. Operational cost is more.
If I bring Nazir Bhai, in terms of the law for the last, since March, we've had a lot of things that has changed and that has become new law. Okay, how does a businessman, for example, yes, if you have businessmen who are not reading the media, who are not on Facebook, who are not watching, how should the local authorities really send them, look, this is your new rules within your licenses, this is what you have to adhere to, and this is what you have to do. Are they doing that? Is there something that should be done?
Well, government is doing, TV advert, social media advert, local authority, literature, newspaper, booklet, pamphlet, etc. And again, I must say, ignorance is not a defense.
No,
you
absolutely.
break the law and you can't say, I don't know.
I don't know the law.
It is your responsibility to obey the law of the land. That is clear. And going back to what Badr has said, in terms of coffee is totally shut down. We better understand curfew in Bangladesh. So that is the norms of curfew. So you can't say, we have a last customer, we will wait another 5 minutes, 10 minutes. No, whole business should be shut, complete shut by 10 o'clock. So it is very difficult for customer or your businessman to go in 9:30 and then finish by 10 o'clock. So they have to probably prepare from
whether they finish their meal or not, they need to be vacating the premises
by
out
10
of the premises
exactly,
door
by 10 o'clock.
By 10 o'clock.
Exactly. So effectively, they have to prepare from 9 o'clock.
Nazir Bhai, I'm going to interrupt you. We've got another caller online. Very good evening, caller.
Hello.
Hello, very good evening, caller.
Good evening.
You're live on air.
Yes. I'm gonna thank you, all of you guys. It's such a nice program, and especially welcome by here. So it's this pandemic is especially hospitality industry is really affected, and in terms of the timing of 10 o'clock is really affecting us, especially our suppliers, because I run a company which is involving with hotels, pubs and clubs and restaurants. And clubs are closed now, obviously. Pubs, they're obviously opening hours 5 till midnight. But now there are 2 hours, obviously 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, they can't run. So it's last 1 week when the timing 5 to 10 is really affecting us, I can see.
Caller, thank you very much for your lovely call. And yes, I mean, the restaurant industry has lost 30% of their opening time.
That's right, yes.
Now, it is going to be difficult. How do we sort of encourage the customers to, should we open up a little bit earlier? You know, you are open from 10 a.m. or, you know, midday to...
we open from midday.
You open from
till
midday.
10 o'clock, yes. But then again, obviously, lunchtime business is always... it's just a bonus kind of a business. I mean, the main trade is the evening trade.
So everybody gets out for dinner for 7:30, 8 o'clock, and you know.
Yes, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. This is the time people go out to eat, and they don't finish till 10, 11, 12 o'clock. So now everybody knows that they have to, you know, vacate the premises by 10 o'clock. So
but Ruba, I know you operate quite a few number of businesses. In terms of the catering industry, how much of a spot check has the local authorities in your different, your businesses operate from different authorities? How have they been? Have they been encouraging you? Have they done spot checks? Should they do more?
I mean, they have done spot checks in number of places. In Green Street, I mean, they have done a few number of times. They've been coming and checking everything, and they see how we, you know, implementing all these, you know, rules and regulations, safety and all this. So they are quite happy about it. But then again, obviously, I have other businesses outside London. They're not really coming and check.
Little bit more relaxed.
More relaxed.
More relaxed.
Yes. But then again, the government scheme. When the government scheme introduced about the 50%, we realized that in our Asian area, we have more customer came through the door, and when it goes to like other areas, like white areas, it didn't. It wasn't
effective as much.
As such, yes. So. Yes.
Nasir bhai, so if a scenario in terms of the local authorities going to a business to do a spot check, is there a procedure? Could they close the whole business down in one go? Is there a procedure in terms of how harsh a penalty can be given? Is there opportunity before going to the last sort of?
I don't think a local authority or any enforcement officer has been so draconian. They straight will stop the business. I mean, local authority officers, monitoring officers, or enforcement officers are on the ground. Yeah, exactly. They are there to work with the businesses. I mean, to see that they have been complying with the law and regulations. So don't be afraid. I mean, if they visit to you, cooperate with them. They will be just checking that you are obeying the law, you are discharging your duties. That's all. And if you do not have anything to hide, you should not be worried.
So the encouragement is try and find out more about what is going on with your local authority. You can speak to them, you can go onto their website and see what has changed or what you need to do. Try and do it a little bit more better.
That's right.
This is what you would say, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Sort of with the busy period that you had, Badrubhai, did you employ more people, or did you have them? Did you take on new staff and things?
Yes,
in
we
terms
did.
Of was there opportunity? So a lot of people saying a lot of people will lose business and lose staffing, where people are being laid off in different sectors. Was the restaurant industry of operation like yourself, did you take on more people? Because we don't hear about people taking on people. We only hear that people laying off people. So did you take on any?
No, of course we did take more people on board because of that certain period was madly busy. So obviously you needed more people, and we did took more people on board. Yes.
So are you, is that for a short term or
for
a
a short
long term?
time? Obviously, after that scheme is finished last week or week before. After that, the business is very quiet, as you all know. So yes, we had to cut people in hours, and
I mean, I want to touch up on something for our community. The NHS app, which has been released, we need to encourage people to download that, whether it's Android, whether it's Apple. We need to tell our families and friends and clients. Nazir bhai, I mean, what do you have to say in terms of that?
Exactly, I fully echo what you've said. I mean, we should download this app. This is very essential, and it will help you to stop spreading and be safe, and also contract and chasing. So that's very important that every one of us download in our mobile.
It is necessary, or is it in terms of every business must produce one, must encourage?
Exactly.
Yes.
It's very important for individually, for all of us, and also for businessmen as well.
Wakar bhai, one question for you, or I'll come back to my other guest. How does a small business, Badru bhai's operation, he's got a lot of sort of like big lawyers and small businesses. How do they get from the furlough, and if they're not on furlough, how do they get onto that job support scheme? How easy is it? How difficult is it? And how do they take it forward?
Okay, in terms of keeping your staff, government is giving those initiatives like a job support scheme, the furlough scheme, and then there's a job support scheme. But what you need to remember is, if there's no business, then none of this scheme will work. So you need to have business first.
Of course.
And government is not reimbursing all of the money. This job support scheme will only cover 1/3 of the hours the employee is not working, not whole amount, compared to job retention scheme.
Where they didn't work, they
still got the 80% or 70% or.
But this one, they're encouraging the employees to work.
And then the same. So it's basically a burden on both employee and the employer. So the business need to be going basically, and the employee need to be working certain number of, at least 33% of the usual hours, as I said. So it's basically business needs to survive at the same time. And this help from government is very little incentive to carry on business. So employers still need to bear the cost of the employee. So if there's no business, how are you gonna pay those wages? So businesses need to survive first. Then all of this scheme will work. Otherwise, the scheme is not.
So is it a lot of work for accountants, a firm like yourselves? How much? I mean, obviously. Over the job retention scheme, a lot of accountants had to work day and night from home, where they couldn't go into the office.
This scheme put us under tremendous pressure, because this was out of our usual services, what we normally do day in day out. So we had to, as you correctly mentioned, we had to work harder than like usual. So at that time, even working from home was not a usual thing for us. So we had to adjust to working from home. We had to set up new. Some of us probably we don't have even good laptops or probably internet connection at home. So we had to set up those things, and we had to spend extra money on buying servers or better internet connection. Yeah, we had to do extra work on that, and even the coming schemes, whichever is coming, this job support scheme and other things. We have been doing our bit, I would say, in this crisis.
I think in general, the public, the businessmen and women within our community and everyone else, everybody's got together and everybody has made an extra effort, invested a lot more money. So in terms of your restaurant, you probably have to invest a lot more sort of your hand sanitizers, how you do a lot of things. I mean, nobody was prepared for this. So obviously, a lot of business have to go far away and say, look, we need to do this. We need to do this for the general public or the clients and their families. I mean, there must be a lot of cost to.
It is a extra cost for you, obviously, and this sanitizer doesn't come cheaper nowadays. You know, it's really expensive when you go to a.
Well, the price has gone up, hasn't it?
It is, yes, it is. Hand sanitizer. I mean, obviously, hand wash is not that expensive now, but hand sanitizer is still expensive. And look at the mask and all these stuffs. I mean, it is really costly.
I mean, in terms of the staff that work in your fabulous restaurant, I mean, they're working in such a difficult condition in terms of, meaning they're on their feet, long hours. Now everybody has to wear their mask, which we do. I mean, tell our viewers, please do wear your mask, sanitize your hand, stay as a little bit further away in terms of distancing, social distancing. So they are going through sort of harder times than what they would go through 6 months ago, a year ago.
Of course, it is a harder time, as you all realize it. You know, you have to wash your hands every 10-20 minutes, and I mean, yes, this is a new world for us, you can say. I mean, everything has changed, hasn't it? I mean, the social gathering, you know, you can't even, you know, gathering more than 30 people. I think it's less. It's 6 people now. So you can't even see your own families. You know, it's a very new world for us.
Gentlemen, we are coming towards the end of our program. Nazir Bhai, I mean, I would like you gentlemen to take a minute and say and advise and suggest our community, especially the Bangladeshi community, where we are much more vulnerable, how we, you know, how we day-to-day life, how we run our business, and how we avoid and stay safe within sort of the situation, the pandemic that we are in. How, you know, please say a word.
Thank you very much. The feature of the coronavirus is that it affects all of us. All businesses, I mean all countries of the globe, directly or indirectly. So we have to be careful, and we have entered into a new era. I mean, we have come to a new world. So we must obey the law, we must save ourselves, and then protect others as well. So be vigilant, be careful, be kind to others, obey the law, be safe and protect others. Especially British Bangladeshi community are the most vulnerable community, even right from the beginning. Now, while government has introduced a lot of conditioned lockdown, etc., but while school is open, yet again British Bangladeshi community, living in extended families, are most vulnerable. So be careful, be vigilant, be kind to others, especially our parents and grandparents.
Dr. Bhai, a few words to our community. And
yes, as Nazir Bhai said exactly, we are more vulnerable than anyone else. I think we are the bottom. We are more vulnerable than even Indians background or Pakistani background. So because we live in an extended family, you know, we all live together, and that's why we're more vulnerable. So just to, you know, just be vigilant, and you know, just think about the others when you go out. Keep your social distancing, and
Wakan Bhai, a little comment from yourself.
Thank you, first of all, again for inviting me on this program. And since I can only I can talk about my area, especially I can advise or request the businesses to comply with the law, keep the records, make sure you comply with the legislation, whatever rules are being introduced in terms of whether employing someone or your businesses or turnover or claiming a VAT or even job support scheme, any of these. Make sure to keep a proper record, because HMRC is currently busy, so they're probably not checking any of the claims that you're making, whether eat out scheme or any of the. Make sure pay very important on this importance on this, because it will come back to you again. So anyways, you got to be very careful with these things. make sure to keep in touch with your accountant and
keep a clean record of
everything. Otherwise, it's not going to continue like this. They will definitely come back.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to have to wrap up this evening show. Thank you very much to Nazir Ahmed, barrister, writer, Wakan Hassan, accountant, business advisor, and Mr. Badrul Haq, director of Turkish Restaurant. Ladies and gentlemen at home, please stay safe. Sanitize your hand, encourage to others to do so. The NHS app, track and trace, encourage everybody to download that. Until next Sunday, where I'll have 2-3 more guests who will be speaking. At the moment, we have concentrated on the COVID-19 situation, how business are, how it affects everyday life. Look after yourself and look after each other. Have a very good evening.
আলাইকুম ওয়া রাহমাতুল্লাহি ওয়া বারাকাতুহু। নাজাত ইসলামী মার্কাজ, এখানে বাচ্চারা হাফিজি পড়তেছে। বিশেষ করে এই মাদ্রাসায়